I'm going to call to order, and then we're going to do introductions for the board members that are in attendance, or if you're a proxy. And how we've done this in the past is I'll just, since I can see the screen, I hope I call everybody that's on the board, but I'm not sure, there could be some new appointees. So if I miss one, or if I, so please speak up at the end if I haven't called your name. My name is Lisa Ridge. At the moment, I'm the chair of the MPO Policy Committee and also the Monroe County Highway Director. Sarah?
Yes, I'm Sarah Reiterband. I am co-chair or vice chair, and I am chair of the CAC.
Steve?
Steve Olin from the City Council.
Margaret?
Margaret Clements from the Monroe County Plan Commission, and Commissioner Githens is reporting that she needs to be allowed in and unmuted, and the video needs to be turned on.
Okay, thank you. I'll check that out.
Nate?
Good afternoon. Nate Nichols, City of Bloomington Public Works, and I'm proxy for Adam Wason, Director of City of Bloomington Public Works.
Andrew?
Andrew Seabor, City Engineer, serving as proxy for Mayor Hamilton.
Pamela?
Pamela Samples, President of Ellsville Town Council.
Jillian?
Representative from the Bloomington Plan Commission.
Kate?
Kate Wiltz, Monroe County Council.
Jason?
Jason Bannock, Indiana University.
Chris?
Chris, are you there?
If you are, you're muted. And we'll come back to Chris. Doug, are you a board member? And I apologize, I'm not sure.
Yes, thank you. Good to see you all. I am the 2022 representative from the Bloomington Public Transit Corporation Board of Directors.
Thank you.
Great, welcome.
Thank
and
you.
John Connell?
Yes, John Connell, General Manager, Bloomington Transit.
All right, and I
So,
believe we have Penny on here.
I have not seen her join yet.
She's there under
Monroe County Board of Commissioners.
and she's unable to unmute, and her video, she needs to be elevated to the panel level so that there she goes. She's unmuted now.
Thank you for letting me know. I didn't necessarily know who that was.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm not able to change my name on here. And it also is not letting me start my video because it says you've stopped it.
You should be able to now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Good afternoon. Good to see everyone. I am Penny Githens, Monroe County Board of Commissioners, and I'm here as a proxy for Julie Thomas, who's going to resume her role on the MPO.
Thank you. I believe I got everybody. Our staff today is Patrick Martin and Ryan Clemens with the MPO staff. John, I saved you for last. I believe you're new to the board, and we welcome you to your first meeting. So I guess moving on to approval of the agenda.
Yes, yeah, I would move that the agenda be approved with the exception of election of officers, which I would suggest be postponed until next month when we know that all of the boards and commissions have put their new representatives, if they're going to change, onto the policy committee.
So we have a motion. I know Margaret has her hand raised.
Second.
We have a second. Margaret, would you like to comment on that motion?
Yes, as we had discussed at our MPO October 8th meeting, a traffic impact area study was called for to be discussed in the November agenda. And I think that that should be added today under old business on the agenda, because the traffic impact area study has been called for since at least 2019 by multiple members of this committee. And it's an important thing to do given the changes in our in our city and in our county.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, if I may. Oh. We
Dave?
do have a motion and a second on the floor. And
Right, that was
also,
my point.
in new business, we do have plenty of room for discussion for traffic studies. It's just called transportation engineering and so forth. Plus, it is in new business because it has never been brought before this policy committee before, hence why it is not in old business. Thank you.
Okay, and you said it's which item under? I'm not seeing studies under.
Item
new
9.
business.
Item 9 of the agenda has new business, transportation planning, transportation engineering, traffic engineering. And then there's an addendum page, which has been posted with a single page that I sent to Penny Githens this morning. And we posted that as an addendum, adding that single page to the agenda. And that's included on the posting. Not only, I sent the mailing out a couple of hours ago, and then we also have it, we'll have it up here on the screen later on.
Okay, so we do have a motion and a second pertaining to the tabling of the nominations of election of officers first. Margaret, are you okay with the new business since it's under new business of being under there? Or
I think it really belongs under old business. I'm really having problems with the way that this is being bureaucratically managed. And I think that the MPO staff has been largely unresponsive. And I think it deserves to be under old business because it's been on the table since 2019, excruciatingly on the table since 2019.
okay, so how about and Ryan, you can correct me
a
if I'm
question
wrong.
from Steve.
Steve?
Madam Chair, I mean, with all due respect to Ms. Clement's point, it's slightly out of order. We do have a motion and a second on the table to postpone item 3. And then once we've disposed of that, we can talk about whether her belief that item 9 should be part of item 8 can be taken up. But we should dispose of the first question since it was a motion and a second, and then you can entertain her motion after that.
That's what I was kind of gearing at. Thank you, Steve, for clarifying that.
Thank you.
So we have the first agenda change is we have a motion and a second. Do we have any more discussion on tabling election of officers until the February meeting? I am not seeing any. Margaret, is your hand raised just from before?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing any hands raised for further discussion on this. Do we have any comments from the public regarding this motion?
Since this is approval of the agenda, just like approval of the minutes, there is no public comment.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay. Only old business and new business, and the public comment section is for that. So voting items, more or less.
All right, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
Okay, would you like to do a roll call since I'm not seeing anything from the board?
Yes, I would recommend a roll call vote. All right, I'll start the roll call vote just in the order that I have it written down here. Nickel.
Yes.
Volan.
Yes.
Wallman.
You got a thumbs up for him.
Yes. Ryder Band.
Yes.
Ridge.
Yes.
Samples.
Yes.
Seaboard.
Yes.
Wiltz.
Yes.
Bannock.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes.
Clements.
No.
Kinsey.
Yes.
Githens.
Yes.
Is there anyone I accidentally left out? Okay, that is 12-1.
Thank you. So Margaret, at this point in time, I believe you would want to make a motion for your request.
Yes, I would like to move that we add to the agenda under old business, the item of the need for an area traffic study.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Who was the second?
Kenny,
Kenny.
is there discussion? It looks like Steve has his hand raised.
Yes, Ms. Clements, I know that this has been a concern for you for a long time. But I mean, they suggested that there can be this, we can have that very discussion under new business. There's no old business. The discussion is going to happen today. Does it make a difference? That much of a difference to you here?
It does, because it's been on the table since 2019, and to characterize it as new business when it's really old business, and it's been a lot of effort has gone into even arriving on the agenda. I think it's most adequately placed under old business.
Well, but when you say it's been on the table, it's been something that's been important to you and other people, but has it actually been proposed as a formal action by a member of the MPO so that it can be old business? Because I mean, as important as it is to you, it's not in the packet per se as a resolution of the MPO.
It was to be on the November agenda, and that Commissioner Githens had requested that, and it was agreed upon that it would be on the November docket, and then surprisingly, the November meeting was canceled.
So my final question is there text that we are going to be reviewing together and voting on?
Well, certainly it has been submitted to the MPO staff on multiple occasions.
Okay, well, nevertheless, if I don't have it in my packet, you know, it's harder for me to discuss it today. That's my, I mean, I don't mind there being a general discussion of it, but I feel an obligation to vote on language that's in writing that it becomes a resolution of the MPO. If nobody shares my concern, I'll withdraw it. But that's I mean, technically, I know it's important to you, but if it's not properly formatted, how are we supposed to?
Well, it's been submitted to the MPO staff. I believe you've received copies by email as well about the need for an area of traffic. Well, it was sent originally by from Scott Ferris, and who is a retired colonel from the Air Force who had a career in logistics, and he submitted it to the MPO, and the MPO actually voted on a need for an area traffic study back in, I think it was in 2019 when we came together, and I believe you actually were there, Council Member Volan, when we had the hospital discuss the traffic and transportation changes around the new hospital. And at that time, we discussed the need for an area traffic study. And it's been going back and forth in correspondence, and by and large, not being inserted by the staff into the policy committee meeting packet as requested by members of and agreed upon by members of the MPO. I've befuddles me.
I guess I would ask the chair, Madam Chair, is there any, I mean, because while I recall that meeting that Ms. Clements talks about, I'm sort of at a loss as to how to proceed here, because like, I don't want to vote on something that isn't text in front of me. If we're having a vote today.
I don't see a reason why it couldn't be under old business. I do know that we have discussed this many times. I do know that some of the board members would like to have make a request to NDOT. And I think that's just kind of a formality of making it a voted on item. I do know we have received this request in the past. I can't speak for staff. I know there's been many meetings amongst City of Bloomington, Mr. Ferris, in coming discussion of these projects and moving forward. I don't know if Scott's here. I think Scott Robinson was in on those conversations. If this is going to be a voted on item, I do believe, I will say I agree that I think we should have something in front of us and in writing for us to all refresh our memories from 2 or 3 months ago. However, I don't say that, I don't think anything's changed in the request of wanting NDOT to maybe do a traffic impact study. However, I don't want to speak for the whole board here. I think everyone has a difference of opinion on this. I think everybody's best interest is in the safety of the traveling motorist in Monroe County along any route, state, county, or city. I guess I would ask if we are tabling the chairman or of the officer for the officer's election. I guess, again, I don't want to speak for the whole board. I don't have a problem of it being under old business at all. I would hate to ask for the board to vote on something that you don't have in front of you to read, to vote on. But again, I think we're just asking request for an impact study. I think everybody's seen a lot of documentation on this also. I guess, I don't know if that helps.
It helps some. Again, I still, if the question is there a resolution being put forward, it should be in text. If it's not in text, then we can't vote on it.
I can put it in, I can write it into chat. I think it's gone through our emails and text. So
I mean, but it's not being given with sufficient public notice. So I know how strongly you feel about it. I just, you know, it's certainly not the procedure we use when deliberating over ordinances. So I mean, that's how I've always understood you know, any kind of, I mean, again, if we're having a discussion today, I'm happy to have that discussion, but I'm uncomfortable voting on anything today.
I guess that would probably be that's a good point, Steve. I would guess I would think when you're doing a resolution, legally, you would have to give public notice on voting for a resolution. I'm not an attorney. I usually don't vote on resolutions and things except for here, but I would think it would have to be something that had to have been given out to the public for review also. Patrick or Ryan, has that been done? Has there been a resolution established for board members to look at since October?
Okay, so our last policy committee meeting was held in October. What happened in October was a recommendation by the committee and communications from committee members that is not included on the agenda section at the end of the meeting to include this on our next meeting's agenda, which is today. And because that was stated in that meeting is why it falls under new business today and not old business. Like I mentioned before, also what is in new business today is just a discussion. It is not a voting item at all. And so there is no resolution or plan attached to this at all. It is just simply a discussion like what the policy committee wanted in October. I hope I clarified anything from that, but I also see Sarah and Penny have their hands up.
Okay, Sarah?
Yeah, I agree with Steve that this is not something that we've had in writing per se in front of us before, which is how I generally determine what is old business. It's not just that this has been kicking around for a couple of years. That doesn't make it specifically old business for our agenda. And I also see that transportation planning is detailed as new business, and this would seem to fall under that general category and can certainly be discussed and even something proposed during this discussion of transportation planning. Again, in alignment with what Councilman Folan has said, we don't have something other than something in chat written for us to actually review. And not having reviewed it, I don't feel comfortable that this is old business. I have no problem discussing it, but it really fits under this new business and in the general arena of transportation planning. In addition, I want to note that not only are we interested in motor vehicles on our roadways, but all users being able to access and utilize our roadways in whatever mode they choose. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for clarifying that for all modes of transportation. Penny.
Yeah, I'm not as tied to whether or not this is old business or new business, but I feel like there should have been better information coming out from the staff. I sent an email on November the 3rd that I copied different people on, saying that I would like to have the policy committee discuss whether or not to do the traffic study requested and recommended by Mr. Ferris. And I would have expected that I would have had the information needed to fully discuss stuff so that we could do that and vote on something if we felt like we need to. I know other members of the MPO board received this because Mr. Volan, Councilmember Volan, actually asked if I was wanting to have the November meeting, have that done at a November meeting, which had been canceled. And I said, no, I really just wanted it at whatever was the next meeting of the MPO. So I know that people are aware of the fact that we're interested in this, but like I said, I'm very disappointed that we didn't have the kinds of information given to us that would have allowed us to have a vote today. It feels like there's too much foot dragging here. We've had a lot of building going on. When I look at what's going on East 10th Street, not only the stuff with IU, but now there's construction going on Pete Ellis Drive, so that you have to use 10th Street to get to the Woodbridge post office. There's going to be more traffic going through there with the apartment that's going up on Pete Ellis. We know that there's going to be building at the old East Kmart site. Again, more traffic, and there's just a lot of building going on that was not present 10 years ago, which is the reason that for everybody's safety, no matter what the mode of transportation is, we need to have some traffic studies done. Thank you.
Hey, Steve.
Well, again, we're still on item 2, and I don't think that old business or new business makes a difference. The real issue is those who advocate for this want there to be an actual vote by the MPO today, if I interpret them correctly. And again, I'll just say that I mean, the one difference between the MPO and the council is that you know, like there's other bodies like the MPO have just discussions without a resolution to vote on. So if the MPO is asking me to vote on an issue today, I'm just not going to vote on it, but I am happy to have a discussion. I only vote on stuff that's on a document that, you know, a proposal, a resolution that's in writing. And that was, I mean, the whole reason we have an agenda is that it be done in advance. So there's at least 48 hours where people have had a chance to read the packet, study the idea, understand it fully. I mean, I see the text that Ms. Clements is writing in the chat, and I'm like, we're still on item 2. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on. I mean, it's not fair to ask me to, even though I'm familiar with the complaint, I'm not familiar with the details of it. This is just not orthodox way to handle a formal action of this duly appointed body. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. So I guess to try and move this, Penny?
Yeah, then I really, really think we need a firm commitment on when there's going to be something that's in front of us to vote on and when we're going to have the full and complete information. I'm just frustrated as can be at this point. You know, I first went to my first MPO meeting when that presentation was done by IU, and we're still talking about trying to figure out how to get things done and when they'll be done. So what's the commitment? Who should be providing this information, and when are we going to have it in our hands to move forward?
Thank you, Penny. Margaret?
I would also like to add that there should be nominated and selected a specific MPO INDOT point of contact to deal with these complex coordination issues, because despite our purpose and our mission as a committee, the coordination is not taking place that involves county, city, university, INDOT. Something is wrong with the system, and it's not working for the benefit of the taxpayers, and safety is at issue and at risk. So I'd like there to be designated a primary point of contact that coordinates with INDOT and with the MPO.
Thank you, Margaret. Steve, did you still have something, or can I?
I did. I understand Ms. Clements has, you know, multiple concerns. The idea of a point of contact is an important issue to discuss, but it's a separate point from her initial question was to get this item on the agenda. And while I totally understand Ms. Githen's frustration, you know, I haven't been involved in the MPO long enough to fully understand its processes either. I'm happy to help discuss how to improve them. I only know the process that I work with in my professional life. I just simply urge, I mean, it's clear that the process itself needs to be re-engineered, but I would at least suggest that in the way that Ms. Clements has typed into the chat now, I mean, I've told people anybody can write an ordinance, anybody can write a resolution. It's a matter of getting somebody to sponsor it. And there's clearly members of the MPO who are willing to sponsor this formal action of the MPO. The only problem I have is with the desire to do it right this minute, where I can't, I mean, there's no way I can vote positively. I would vote to abstain or against something that I don't have time to understand.
Thank you, Steve. So I believe we have a motion on the floor of moving or adding the traffic impact study under old business, I believe is the motion. Did I have a second on that motion?
I had seconded it.
Penny had seconded. Add discussion just on moving it to old business, I believe was the motion. Brian, would you want to take a roll call on that motion?
Sure. Volan.
No.
Wallman. Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I don't know if you're having problems with audio, Chris. Even if you could type your vote in chat, maybe that would work. Thank you.
Did we get that?
It was a no in chat.
Okay, thank you. Writer Band,
No.
Ridge,
Yes.
Samples,
You're muted, Pam.
Sorry, no.
Seaboard,
No.
Wiltz,
Yes.
Bannock,
No.
Horn,
No.
Clements,
Yes.
Kinsey,
No.
Githens,
Yes.
Nickel,
No.
I have 4 to 9.
Okay, so motion failed. Moving on to communications from the chair. Again, I just wanted to welcome.
Hold on, if I may, that was just for amendments to the agenda. I think we have to go through, right, the full agenda.
My original motion.
Approved amendments. Is that correct?
We need to approve the agenda with the change.
I believe that's correct.
My original motion, way back when, feels like days ago now, was to approve the agenda with the provision that we suspend the election procedure until the next meeting. That was what I actually moved.
And that was approved through a vote.
Yes,
And
so
then
the agenda is approved because it was approved with the suspension of elections until the next meeting.
I see what we shouldn't have taken a vote until the second one was, we were actually voting on that agenda twice.
I'll let you make the call on that, Lisa.
The second one was actually to change the order, to move this thing from new business potentially to old business.
I don't think it's going to change the outcome if we keep this in the minutes of how the votes went. And I think it should be documented how the votes went. And I don't think it affects how we move forward with our agenda as is at this point.
Okay, thanks. Sounds good to me.
Okay. Communications from the chair. Again, I just wanted to welcome John Connell with Bloomington Transit.
First. We are on item 4 at the moment.
Approval of minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry, jumping way ahead. So I apologize. Moving to item number 4.
I move to approve minutes from October the 8th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments from the board? Margaret?
Yeah, I would like to include the request that the item for the traffic study be included in the November meeting, the traffic impact study. I see it under communications from committee members, non-agenda items, but I believe it was agreed upon at that time by the MPO that we included in the November agenda. That's why Commissioner Githens had written to the staff, the MPO staff, to ask that it be included in the November meeting, which was subsequently canceled. So I'd like that included in the minutes.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion from the board. Pat?
I might want to say the videotape shows otherwise. The videotape shows that under communications from committee members on non-agenda items, the request, well, it was noted that there was a need for an updated IU studies and also an NDOT examination, 046 corridor. There was an agreement on that, but there was no request. And then the request came on November 3rd to me, and I agreed that we would add that to the next meeting. However, that meeting was canceled. So therefore it was included in today's meeting. So yeah, I mean, you can amend the minutes, but what I'm saying is that the videotape shows something different.
I just don't understand the difference between an agreement and a request. You know, it was clear in my mind that it was going to be discussed and on the agenda in November, which is why we're talking about it today, by the way, and why we're taking time to do that, because this kind of rolling around and fuzzing up the edges of what we had as a common understanding of something necessary for our community is not being discussed. And I've been on, we've been talking about it since 2019. Okay. So that this is incredible to me. So just want to say that we had an agreement that it was going to be on the November agenda, and I don't know if I don't understand.
Well, like I said, there was communications from the committee members talking about non-agenda items, and there was discussion of the need for those two studies. However, there was no request, and I didn't receive a request until September 3rd. And when I received a request on September 3rd, we agreed right away to put it on the agenda for the next meeting, which would have been November, but now it's this month instead. So there was no formal agreement, no vote or anything like that. It was just a generalized discussion that there was a need for. There was no mention of 2019 or anything like that in the videotape. I mean, you're free to go back and look at the videotape. All I'm doing is reporting exactly what was in the videotape itself, in a summarized form. And we spoke to the Department of Transportation about this too.
Don Griffin?
Well, hold on. Before we get to Don,
okay.
I'm looking at the roster of the meeting, and I believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, like right away, I think we have Andrew Seabor as proxying for Mayor Hamilton. So yes. we are only at this point allowing committee members to speak on these issues of the agenda and the minutes.
Okay, when we get
please tell me right away if I'm wrong on that. And
I was thinking the same thing, but I didn't want to overlook someone. So
and sorry, Don. I just want to make sure
we will get to you, Don. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any other comments from the board? Sarah?
Yes, as I recall, I made the point, and again, I haven't reviewed the video, but I probably made the point, and believe I did, that a request made to the MPO staff will be acted on, that we did not need a resolution of any sort in order for that to happen, that we could make the request. And there was general agreement among board members that yes, this is overdue, and yes, we need for NDOT to re-examine this arena that they looked at some time ago, but that this is becoming a very active area and it needs to be re-examined. There was not a resolution at that point or any motion that was voted on. So the request then was actually made, and I trust that the staff has spoken and made that request to NDOT. That's the question that I would have for our MPO staff. Did you communicate with NDOT that this is something that we want to have happen within our MPO?
Yes. We spoke to NDOT about this. The terms that have been tossed around are area-wide study, impact study, and other terms. And the vagueness of those terms does not define exactly what type of study is desired. There had been no formal action by the committee itself, so therefore the staff was left to interpret what that was. And so the staff took the general items of transportation planning, traffic engineering, transportation engineering, traffic engineering, put those all under the headers, and then we've got an addendum page in here, sort of a menu of what type of studies are desired by the committee. So in answer to your question, yes, we did communicate. But what type of study is wanted is very vague. It's very unclear. There have been a number of loose terms thrown around, and that's because engineering is precise. And so therefore, a precise definition, what does everybody want? And is there in a consensus format? And then we can move forward from there. And none of this has been discussed with the Technical Advisory Committee or the Citizens Advisory Committee. This has all been a top up and no bubble down, no discussion among anybody else at all. And that's a problem too, in the sense that the normal sequence of events is that any type of discussion like this comes from the TAC, the CAC, and up to the policy committee. It doesn't start at the policy committee and stay at the policy committee exclusively, because there just hasn't been any additional input other than policy level. We need something. So, okay, I hope that helps.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm trying to get back to the motion that's on the floor, which I think I forgot the motion that's on the floor at the moment. I apologize. Oh, it was to add into the minutes for the request for the traffic study to be included into the minutes. We had a motion and we did have a second.
Was there any other discussion? I thought I saw Steve's hand up first. Or maybe that was an error.
Steve, did you have something more to say?
I simply think we should vote on the motion. It's time to move on.
I was just thinking that, you know, as chairman, we could get this vote. We have traffic impacts. We have an item on here that I think we can have more discussion on. I think it's been clear.
I'd also just suggest briefly that the minutes can always be changed later if, in fact, Ms. Clement's motion is of such is correct as borne out by looking at the video. We can change the minutes at next month's meeting. So I don't think it's the end of the world. You know, we can accept the minutes and then change them again by a motion of the MPO. So if there's questions about it, we should postpone the question. But you know, if we're going to vote on it now, let's just do it. Thank you.
So we have that motion on the floor. I mean, I guess I just a voice, since we're still a little bit on discussion before the vote, I like the idea of postponing the vote on those minutes until it can be clarified and given to the board at the next meeting through the video, precisely what that conversation was. That's a suggestion that I'm just throwing out there to be able to move forward.
I think that's great, and I will make sure to provide a link to the CATS video from October 11th, 2019.
Yeah. Madam Chair, I move postponement of the motion.
I'll second Mr. Volan's motion.
I'd just like to move to postpone the motion to approve the minutes and the motion to change the minutes to the next meeting. I'm looking for a second.
Second.
Do we have any discussion on that motion? Do we have to vote, Ryan, on the other motion? I'm assuming Or can we just go to this as tabling this item?
I believe that is true.
I can
but
withdraw
Steve,
my
please correct
motion.
me if I'm wrong. I think that motion would have to be removed off the table.
And I'm happy to withdraw my motion to approve the minutes.
So we have that withdrawn. We have Steve's motion as tabling this item and Kate seconding. Do we have any other discussion on this item? I don't see any hands up. Ryan, would you want to do a roll call on that motion?
Sure. Wallman.
He said yes in the chat.
Thank you. Ryder Band.
Yes.
Ridge.
Yes.
Samples.
Yes.
Seaboard.
Yes.
Wiltz.
Yes.
Bannock.
Yes.
Horn.
Abstain.
Clements.
Yes.
Kinsey.
Yes.
Githens.
Yes.
Nickel.
Yes.
Volan.
Yes.
I have 12-0-1.
Thank you, Ryan. Moving to item number 5, communications from the chair. Again, I want to welcome John Connell to his first MPO policy committee meeting. I don't want to put you on the spot to say anything, but welcome. We look forward to working with you with the Bloomington Transit, and welcome.
Thank you. And I look forward to working with all of you, and I'll let you get back to business because it looks like it's gonna be a long meeting.
So I guess we're going to go into traffic in studies, and I guess I just have a couple comments as chair. I hope we can have a good discussion. I think there's something that's a very hot topic for everybody. And if the process is starting out at the Technical Advisory Committee and the Citizens Advisory Committee, then I strongly urge when we get to that topic, that's what we as a board say that needs to happen at this point. Let's not put it off any further. If that's a step that's been missed, I wish there would have been maybe a little bit more clarification months ago that maybe that's where we should have been way before this point. And get this moving towards a vote for a resolution if that's what the outcome is of the policy committee, working together what's best for the community, and getting a decision made to, and if it comes out for a traffic study and what type of study we need, then I suggest we move into that direction. But again, if the next process is to go to Citizens Advisory and Technical Advisory, then that's what we do and not put it off any further. So that's really, I just want to throw that out there. So item 6, reports from officers, Citizens Advisory Committee.
Yes, thank you. The CAC met in November. It's hard to remember that far back, but yes, it met last year in November. And there was nothing actually for us to act on. We did choose to postpone action on the participation plan because we felt that it needed more examination, that we could make it a better public participation plan than what we have. And the Citizens Advisory Committee is looking at it in greater depth to make sure that everyone is included and that we look at many more eventualities than when this was originally written. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Technical Advisory Committee.
All right, I'll report on the Technical Advisory Committee. It also met in November. And just like the CAC, there were no action items. So there is nothing to report from the TAC at this time.
Thank you, Ryan. Moving on to reports from MPO staff. I don't know if that's going to be Patrick or Ryan to lead this up. The first is our 2022 meeting schedules.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. I'm glad all of you made it to this meeting. But you can see in front of you is the 2022 calendar year schedule for the Policy Committee, the Technical Advisory Committee, and the Citizens Advisory Committee. As many of you know, but maybe not everybody, the Policy Committee always meets on the second Friday of each month at 1:30, except for recesses in July and December. The Technical Advisory Committee and the Citizens Advisory Committee meet on the fourth Wednesday at 10 o'clock and at 10 o'clock a.m. and 6:30 p.m. respectively, except for July and December as well. And just like last year and the year before that, the November meetings will be moved up 1 week each due to holiday conflicts. Any questions on the meeting schedule?
I don't. Anything? I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Thank you. You can find this on our MPO website in a few different places as well. And you all have this packet with this schedule in it. So you can reference this or input all these dates into your calendar. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Item B is the MPO 101, January 2022 update.
Okay, this is, excuse me. This is an annual presentation that we make for the Policy Committee, the Citizens Advisory Committee, and the Technical Advisory Committee. We always do this in January of every year because we sometimes have turnover with the addition of new members or the departure of older members. Older as in previous members, that is, not referring to age. And what we do here is we highlight what the MPO is, the who, what, why, the function, the products, the structures, the best practices, the challenges, and the resources. This is essentially the same presentation that we've been presenting to everybody for the last 4 years, or 5 years actually, 5 years actually. With some addition, and the main addition is on page 22. I'm sorry, page 22, where we have additional informational resources. With the passage of the bilateral infrastructure law, it's called the Bill Law, in November, that's changed a lot of what we, the MPO staff, will be required to do by the Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Administration. We still have planning emphasis areas that are in flux. They haven't told us specifically what the final list of planning emphasis areas are. However, we will prepare a unified planning work program. We'll prepare that in a draft form for the TAC and the CAC in February, and that will come to the Policy Committee in March. The key products that we produce are the Unified Planning Work Program, which is our contract with the Department of Transportation. That's the Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Administration through the Indiana Department of Transportation, who administers the program. We prepare the Unified Planning Work Program. We prepare a transportation improvement program, and we also prepare a metropolitan transportation plan. The transportation improvement program is a short-range program, typically only 5 years, 1 to 5 years, whereas the metropolitan transportation plan is a 20-year horizon document. We updated the metropolitan transportation plan in 2020 through an extensive set of meetings and opportunities, plus an public involvement process involving a survey, voluntary survey, That document was adopted by the committee in October of 2020, the Transportation Improvement Program. We did a kickoff on that in January. Well, we announced it in January and we opened it up for call for projects. We received all the projects, went through that evaluation process based on the criteria given to us by the Department of Transportation, Federal Highway, and also by Federal Transit Administration. We went through an opportunity for a public meeting on that. And also we did have one public meeting before COVID started. And then we had a series of other meetings on that, ending with an adoption in September 10th of last year. And those are the three main documents that we're required to produce on an annual basis. And that's about it. Other than if you have questions about MPO 101, please contact us. Email is preferable since sometimes we're here, sometimes we're not, thanks to COVID. But please contact us and we'll be happy to go into what I would call greater detail on everything. Questions, anybody?
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh. The only thing I might suggest on that is and this is just an opinion of mine, I think this is wonderful, especially for new members, but it might be something that we present at February meetings since we put off election of officers until then, because you might not have all new members at this point. But
okay, yes, we'll re-include it in the packet for February. Okay.
And that's fine. I might not be chair in 2022, so somebody might have a difference of opinion, but that's just, like I said, just a suggestion.
Well, Ryan and I may not be here either. You never know with the current situation of health. Okay, yeah, we'll be glad to do that.
I'm not seeing any hands raised on this item. Bloomington Transit Route 2 service change.
Okay, we included in a packet a notification from Bloomington Transit of a service change. This is on Route 2 West service changes, and I wanted to make sure that all of you are aware of this because we are a multimodal agency. And this involves what I would call the route optimization study, which was funded by the MPO, funded out of our MPO planning funds, route optimization study, which went on in 2019. That was scheduled for implementation in January of 2020, was postponed by a few months. And then we got into March of 2020 and that everything was postponed. When I say the optimization, it involves not only Bloomington Transit, but it involves IU Campus Bus. Rural Transit also went through an optimization study looking at their service also. And the results of those studies are available. We'd be happy to share those at any time. But anyway, this gets down to the first real implementation of a route change. And I asked John Connell to be here in case anybody had any questions about the route change. But it should be fairly self-explanatory for any of you that are regular users of Bloomington Transit routes. Questions, anybody? Look for a whole series of changes continued throughout the year. Of course, all of that will be contingent upon current pandemic, the availability of drivers, ridership, in nauseam in terms of all the changes that are there in terms of the variables right now. Okay, questions? Anybody? Okay.
Not seeing anybody's hand raised on this at the moment.
Donna, is that good? Is that fair?
I'm sorry.
Do what?
Was everything there presented accurately, or did you want to include anything else?
Are you talking to John?
Yes.
Okay.
No, that is correct. This is scheduled to take effect Monday.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to fiscal year 2022 to 2026 Transportation Improvement Program, other known as TIP status.
Okay, the fiscal year 2022-2026 Transportation Improvement Program adopted by the Citizens Advisory Committee and then the Technical Advisory Committee in August, and then recommended for adoption by those two committees in August, and then actually adopted by the Policy Committee in September. And the staff submitted that document, well, September 10th, and the staff submitted that document for approval by the Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Administration, and the Indiana Department of Transportation. The Federal Transit Administration approved the document. Federal Highway Administration asked for a few Scribner error corrections, which those were completed. And then the Indiana Department of Transportation was to issue what was called a governor's approval letter or a governor's inclusion letter. So that way the document could be included into INDOT's statewide transportation improvement program by reference. The wrinkle in this is that Federal Highway Administration has delayed approval of INDOT's statewide transportation improvement program. In fact, there was a complete reset of that plan. And so the Department of Transportation went out in August, September, October, November, December, and out currently with a new and improved statewide transportation improvement program for fiscal year 22-26. And that documentation is here in your packet. The bottom line for us is that we must continue operating under the old transportation improvement program, our old transportation improvement program, which is 2020 to 2024, which has different funding levels, different emphasis. It's dated, is what I want to say. But we're held hostage right now until the statewide transportation improvement program is approved. And with that, I'll segue into the statewide transportation improvement program. Staff prepared for you a memo on exactly what the statewide program is, what it consists of in terms of what is it, how is it developed, and then how is it amended and how can you get involved. All of those are highlighted in terms of hyperlinks. We've also included in the Department of Transportation's documentation, so that way there's no misinterpretation of the information that we're conveying. And in the Transportation Improvement Program statewide, it has an overview, it has requirements, it has financial information permits, project listings, types of projects are preliminary engineering, right-of-way, construction. It's not what I would call a planning document, a policy document. Instead, it's a fiscal outline type document of what they intend to accomplish with the resources they have available. Public comments on this, if included in the packet. Ryan, if you can scroll down there to how can we participate, I think it is. Yeah, next page. Yeah, there's participation. There are the hyperlinks right there for you, the policy committee members, and or the general public or anyone to be involved in this process. And like I said, it's open until the 27th of this month. It's a 45-day comment period. There's also, if you look there, the INDOT Seymour District, there's a toll-free number. There's also a special, what I would call a special email hotline here of SE Communications or Seymour District Communications at indot.gov. You don't have to go through the INDOT for You website. You can do this email instead. And if you go to the next page, Ryan, this is, excuse me, this outlines the entire statewide transportation improvement program development process, which occurs every 4 years. As you can see, sometimes it bubbles up and sometimes it bubbles down. It's an entire circular process. We're involved in that, and we, the local area, are involved in every step of that process. We're currently right down, if you can scroll down almost near the bottom there. We're current state that we're at right now is where it says FHWA and FTA review and approval of the final STIP in 30 days, early summer. Actually, that should be early spring. And that's where we are right now in terms of a stage. We're still waiting for the comment period, which is up there that says 45-day comment period. That will, once that expires, the NDOT staff will finalize the document in a very rapid fashion, submit it to Federal Highway, Federal Transit for their review and approval. Hopefully they'll review and approve that in 30 days. And then we'll have a final document here, knock on wood, we'll have a final document by mid-March. Our problem here is that, like I said, we're dealing with old projects in the old transportation improvement program, our old transportation improvement program, when our needs are actually 2 years in advance of that, and the needs are right now. On the next page, we've got sources of projects for the statewide transportation improvement program. This shows you all of the input data that goes into this. So that way, you know, we don't just do this on the top of our hat. They don't do it on the top of their hat. There's a very complex system involving all of the management systems with the Department of Transportation, bridge systems, safety, freight mobility, public transit, everything, and the MPOs. Then the next page after that includes a demographic, socioeconomic demographic profile. This was provided to us again by the Department of Transportation. And instead here, I've only focused on the Seymour district instead of all the districts. The one thing to note here is that NDOT is serving a population of over 1 million people in the Seymour district. 27% of those households have disabilities. That's a big number. You also want to note that on journey to work, 83% of the people are driving alone. You also want to note that 4% of the population worked at home. Obviously, this was pre-COVID. This was done with the 2019 American Community Survey. And then there are no other highlights except for the last page. Scroll down again. 2 more pages, Ryan, if you could. Next page after that. There you go. The 88, there's an 88% number in there. Scroll up just a little bit. Yeah, there you go, 88%. 88% of the people have a smartphone. Not all of them have a personal computer, but 88% of the people have a smartphone, which means that in terms of electronic communication, should be available to a vast majority of the population of that 1 million people population. And that's all I've got, unless anybody has any questions on all of that. The projects themselves that are listed in the statewide transportation improvement program, they're a mirror image of what is in our fiscal year 2022-2026 transportation improvement program. If you don't know what those are, we can send you the link for downloading the transportation improvement program. And the link for the statewide transportation improvement program is also in there too, if you wish to do that individually. Questions, anybody? Be happy to answer.
I believe Sarah has a question.
Yeah, is this an appropriate place for those who are looking for the area-wide study in the area of concern to give feedback to NDOT and the state that it is not part of their STIP, and that, you know, people are alarmed and are looking for involvement by NDOT in an area-wide study?
That could be part of the comment period. I mean, there's a 45-day comment period that goes till the 27th of this month. All you have to do is log on to those hyperlinks, click those hyperlinks, put in your comments about what you think, either pro or con in terms of the transportation improvement programs that are programmed. These are programmed based on fiscal constraint. Everything is fiscally constrained. And it's also based on sequential processing. In other words, what projects are currently in development, have a higher priority than newer projects. And then we also, Department of Transportation also has what are called bench projects. Bench projects means exactly what it says. They're sitting on the bench, they've been identified, but they don't have a funding mechanism available for those. And then longer range projects do not appear in the statewide transportation improvement program simply because they're out there beyond the 5-year horizon. And that's not to say that the 5-year horizon can't be tomorrow or next week. I mean, because of COVID, the situation is extremely fluid. I might note too that some of these projects that were programmed and currently in development right now, there was a purpose and need. Everything is defined by a purpose and need, by the way. It's not just it has to have definable criteria, and you need data to support that purpose and need. Some of those purposes and needs out there may have been altered slightly by virtue of the fact of the pandemic. We had a drop of something like 70% during the lockdown period of March and April of 2020. There was a 70% drop in traffic statewide. That was on the state system. And usually that mirrors the local system too. If you look at Bloomington Transit or any other transit system, the drop that they incurred during not only those first 2 months of 2020, first few months of 2020, but also throughout the remainder of 2020 and for the balance of 2021 for that matter. If you look at all of that, you can see that statewide traffic remains depressed. We're still down 20, 30%, depending upon the region, because people are working at home. People are using alternative methods of transportation. Some people are walking, some people are bicycling. I wish they would use more public transportation. John does too. But you know, there are a lot of variables on here, and you can, and I will say that you can do a study at any time, and those studies will change the needs on those study because we're talking about a dynamic model of a population, and we're talking about a dynamic economy. So I hope that answers your question. I'm sorry, that's a long answer.
Penny?
Yeah, I'm looking at the page on the demographic and socioeconomic profile for the Seymour district. I think that people do a lot more traveling than just journey to work. So I guess I feel like part of this is based on, of course, the questions that they ask, but I feel like it's an incomplete description of what goes on in people's lives and the kinds of transportation that they use. And I was surprised that there's no mention in here of any kind of use. I don't know if public transportation, I guess, includes a bus only, or if it also includes things like scooters, if it includes taxi cabs, if it includes Uber and Lyft, those kinds of things. So do I need to contact the Seymour district to say, I'd like to see a different kind of reporting, or can you help us understand this?
Sure. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, please. I'm done.
Okay. Yeah, the journey to work, like I said, this is based on the American Community Survey, or at least that's what we were told. The American Community Survey comes Census Bureau. It's updated in 2019 was the last time they updated that. They didn't update it in 2020, and then the pandemic hit. And the other thing to point out is that this is a population of 1 million people. So it's essentially a very rural population. I mean, Bloomington is an exception here. In scooters, Well, NDOT is still beating around the definition of scooters. Are scooters considered bicycles? Are they considered motorized transportation? In terms of the crash report, scooters fall through the cracks. They're not bicycles and they're not identified in their own category. The journey to work, I can't explain that because I would think you've got several trip purposes. You've got home base to work. You've got work to non-home based. In other words, any other destination. And then you've got non-home based where you're going from place to place, say for a shopping or a dentist or a doctor or something like that. So in answer to your question, I can't explain the journey to work numbers here. I mean, these are the numbers they gave us. This was done by HDR, which is a large national consulting firm for NDOT. What we can do is we can ask them on that, or you could send them a query through the comment period on, is this really an accurate reflection of the Seymour district? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess it just feels incomplete in terms of how people drive and the purposes for either driving or moving around town. There's nothing about recreation. There's nothing about education.
Yeah.
Like you said, going to the doctor. So it just feels like it's a very partial description.
Incomplete, yes. Yeah, I agree.
Margaret?
Yeah, I would just like to say, this in this STIP description and the role that the MPO plays and how much we're supposed to be collaborating and the purpose is to coordinate, et cetera, that, for now almost 4 years, we've had kind of a safety issue come to the top and we seem to have been inept at addressing it. And I find it ironic. You're talking about a 5-year plan for addressing things that I'm just shaking my head here trying to figure out, what we're talking about, why we're meeting if we're going to be slow rolled on so many things. So I'm just having a hard time with understanding how a letter written by the commissioners in 2019 requesting that safety issues be addressed. And we're still pretending as though that request wasn't made, in 2022, that I don't understand why we're looking at this chart right now. That's all I'd like to say. We have safety issues. They've been presented. They're on the table. I don't think they need to go back to the CAC and the TAC. They've been submitted to NDOT. NDOT has been coordinated with the coordination back to the MPO staff, et cetera, has occurred. And now we're in a bureaucratic nightmare and I see it right before me on the screen. And it's an absurdity. I'd like to make that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret.
Okay. Are there specific locations?
Yeah, I typed them into the chat. State Road 45 corridor.
We have the data, and then in fact, that's the next topic.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So do you want to go on to the crash report that you're talking of, Patrick?
That's Ryan. Yeah.
Ryan, sorry.
I'd be happy to, unless there's any more comments, questions about
see any other hands
presented. All right. So this document here, let me get to it. The 2015 to 2019 crash report has actually been before the policy committee 3 or 4 different times in the last year, really, as it's been developed and has been transitioned from a 3-year crash report, which is what the MPO has done for years, to a now 5-year crash report, which in my opinion, it helps to show more data and more trends, which I'm all about data and seeing longer term trends. So that's why we have gone to the 5 years. And before any questions about this come up? Yes, we have 2020 and 2021 data right now, and it is just currently being analyzed and is not in the form, or the data that is in this report, in this current report, the 2020 and 2021 data are not quite to the graphics and analyzation that has been done for this report. So in sake of time, I'm going to pass over what has been presented to this committee a few times and just show what the new additions are.
Can I ask one question, Ryan, real quick? Since you were talking
Please,
about
yes.
a 5-year, who made that decision? Can I?
The MPO staff did.
Okay.
Sorry, what was the decision?
Well, I should say
changing it from a 3-year crash report that's kind
To a
of
5-year? Yeah, it brings it.
Did it?
Yeah, it brings it in
Because-
synchronization with Department of Transportation.
Yeah, yes. And the Citizens Advisory Committee wanted to see more crash data trends as well.
Yeah.
So here we go. What is new that maybe, and this has been on our website for a few months now. You may have seen it, but if not, what has not been presented yet is to the policy committee, at least. The TAC and CAC saw this a few months ago. Here we have the top 50 crash locations in all of Monroe County by crash rate. So that is frequency. In other terms, it's the number of crashes per million entering vehicles and for each intersection. And what we've seen is the number one intersection in our county is at Old State Route 37 and North Dunn, which is actually an intersection that is co-owned by City of Bloomington and Monroe County. But one thing that I wanted to show here is to help you understand this chart a little bit better is that over the course of these 5 years, 2015 to 2019, this intersection, the number of crashes per million entering vehicles average ranked number one. But in this third column with the numbers, the average intersection crash rate rank shows that there has been an improvement or fewer crashes at this particular intersection. And that is because of improvements that have happened at this intersection. Although it is, and this is on an annual basis, so 2015, 2016, so on. So this intersection has actually, relative to the other intersections on this list, has actually improved or has gotten safer. One, I guess, addition that I would like to say is that maybe not safer, it's fewer crashes, as this is not a rate of intersections by severity, which will come in a future crash report. So anyway, the second intersection, as you can see, East 3rd and South Swain Avenue came in second. And I'm very happy to say, as I'm sure Mr. Seabour is also, that this intersection has very recently had improvements made to it in between South Mitchell and South Swain to help address the issue of the two-way street becoming a one-way street on East 3rd. So moving on, but also to point out, these these issues, and several of these intersections within this crash report, some of the very top intersections with high crash rate or high crash or just high crash numbers in general are actually being acted on not only by City of Bloomington, Monroe County, but also by INDOT. Several of these intersections, for instance, are currently in our 2020 to 24 transportation improvement program, as well as in our 22 to 26 transportation improvement program. So our MPO has valued making our top intersections that we're worried about safer. Okay, fatalities, we've unfortunately presented on this before. One note that I wanted to bring to your attention is that with data from 2020 and 2021, we're showing that fatalities within our county have increased after a few years of decreasing fatalities. So we are definitely interested in working on solving these issues, and we'll be looking further into each incident where this has happened. Fatal crash primary factors for this entire 5-year span. The top factors are running off the road to the right, left of center, and unsafe speed, accounting for over 50% of the fatal crash primary factors. And I say primary factors is because a lot of these running off the road to the right or left of center, actually, as I'll show you in the last page, which I can go there now, are also linked to, for instance, cell phone usage or other circumstances that are secondary, or I say less primary. But anyways, that's what I have right now, but I would take questions about anything that's in this report if anybody were to have them.
Thank you, Ryan. Sarah?
Yeah, Ryan, I believe that the CAC made some specific requests about changes that we wish to see, that we wanted to separate out INDOT's specific intersections from the MPOs or the LPAs within our MPO, so that we can see, because so many of them are INDOT intersections and we have no control over how they're addressed. So that was number one. Number two is—
Can I address that one first?
Yeah,
Sorry.
Sure, go for it.
That's a great point. What this document here is what has been precisely presented to the CAC and the TAC. Those breaking out each LPA and INDOT as well. We have all of that information and data, and I would be happy to share that at a future date. We already have all of that broken down into specific categories.
I believe we even suggested that we color code even the data we have specifically in this document that you offered to the CAC and TAC, so that we can distinguish what is city, what is county, and what is INDOT, so that
yes,
visually we can better assess just these huge numbers and documents and stuff, but just make it easier for us to view and be able to distinguish on our own.
Thank you. Yes, I will definitely make a note to bring that to the CAC's next meeting. And then carry that forth through our next crash reports. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Sarah. Kate?
Sorry, I was on mute. I just wanted to look at the information in table 1. I believe we had been looking at table 2, and there's different ways of looking at the crash locations, the intersections.
This one?
Let me look at what you've got here. So that's table 2 that we were just talking about. And
page 14.
Yes, and then just prior to that is, yes, that one's table 1. And I was wondering, because the intersection at the very top of this table that's indicating that it's ranking the highest is an area of great safety concern and relevant to the discussions that have taken place today over and over. So I'm just wondering if you could make sure I'm interpreting that correctly and tell me a little bit about the difference between that and the next table.
The one with the rates?
Yes. Well, table 1 and table 2. Yeah. I believe the second one is more about the rates. Yes.
Yes. So that's a good question. And let me know if you want me to describe further. This first table is just total number of crashes and where the intersection ranks within the county. And the next table is the one with just the rates. And so that's the one where it takes all the million entering vehicles as opposed to just sheer crash numbers in general.
Got it. Thank you.
Yes.
And okay. And so
be a little confusing, yes.
Sure. Yeah. So before that is the graph then. So I think just literally the one page prior to this one shows again that the same intersection with 10th Street is very high. And frankly, obviously there's an outlier right there in the middle, but really still remains quite significantly higher, and to me is a pretty big red flag.
Would you like me to discuss maybe what has happened with that?
Sure.
Yes. So this happened in 2016, and this was the route for the bypass during Interstate 69 construction.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you see it as a major outlier here, as opposed to other years for the same intersection. And what's more is that this one year has affected its overall rank for this 5-year crash period.
Right.
And a rate also as well.
Right. It would be interesting to look at this data with some of the outliers removed to see if that changes some things. But regardless, yes. I do think it's worth just acknowledging that this same area where we're really wanting to see a traffic study is supported in this report and these data in terms of need.
Right, and that's very good to point out too. And I would just like to make everyone aware that this intersection, or at least the area between this intersection, so 10th and the bypass and P. Ellis, actually has 2 projects within our current tip. So these issues are being addressed, and I'm looking forward to seeing what 2020 and 2021 numbers added to this will look like.
Thank you, Kate. Any other questions or comments on this report with Ryan? I'm not seeing any other hands raised. And again, this is on the website, so okay. Saying no old business, moving on to new business. Transportation. Is this your topic, Patrick?
Yes.
Okay, so do you want to discuss these individually, or can they be discussed together? If it's
Actually, we can go straight down to the very last page of the addendum.
We'll discuss them together.
Okay.
Yeah, just throw them all together.
Okay.
Because see, for professionals, from a professional standpoint, there's a differentiation between transportation planning studies, transportation engineering studies, and traffic engineering studies. In terms of the more generalized all the way down to the specific. And this is what we've struggled with, because in the last meeting, the October meeting, was talked about the need for an area-wide traffic study. Well, an area-wide traffic study implies a very broad area. That could be the entire urbanized area, that could be the county, or are we talking just the east side, or the west side, or the south side, or the north side, or whatever? And then there's also the question of, do you want a sub-area analysis? Are you focused specifically on one area of concern? One area is define the geographical boundaries. We don't know exactly what those are, because those definitions have been fluid in the conversation that we had in October. Also, do you want a corridor level analysis? Today, it was noted State Road 46 corridor from 3rd Street to State Road 446. Or do you want multimodal included in that? Because there is a multimodal component to all of this, in that Bloomington Transit serves the entire area. There are pathways along here. There are sidewalks along here. There are curb ramps, ADA curb ramps that are brand new along some of the areas. Or are you specifically focused on spot locations? That we don't know either. So in terms of that, looking at it from a pure traffic engineering standpoint, these are the types of studies that we put together down here, because if you're talking about an area-wide traffic study, you're talking the full menu. You're talking a buffet. And what we want to know is, and what we must know is, do you want something specific? And if you want something specific, where at? We don't know that, because there have been various locations thrown around. The term was used today, traffic impact study. Well, traffic impact studies are done by Plan Commission. They're not done by the MPO. And traffic impact studies are also reviewed by the Department of Transportation if it involves a new curb cut or a new access point onto a state facility. So yeah, in terms of where we're at here, the confusion on the staff part is, what does everybody want? We need a consensus of some type. First of all, do you want a study, or do you want a whole set of studies? And what type of studies do you want? If you want transportation area-wide studies, we have that in terms of the Metropolitan Transportation Plan and the Travel Demand Forecast Model, which we will be updating in approximately 2 to 3 years with new census data once we receive that from the Census Bureau. We haven't received any of that data yet. That also would commit us to some sort of a funding of an area-wide study In other words, a full travel demand forecast model. Last time we did this in 2013 through 2017, we used $175,000 for that study. It would go up significantly because of the inflation factor on that. If you want a county-wide study, we have that data available already. It's on INDOT's website. If you want INDOT traffic volume data, that's already on INDOT's website also, and that's easily obtainable. You can go in and look at it, and you can look at it in terms of specific links. In other words, major intersection to major intersection, you can look at the traffic volumes that are already out there. If you want a sub-area analysis, that would require a special study, and you'd have to define what sub-area you want to look at. If you want a corridor level analysis, we need to know which corridor it is. It's a singular corridor. If it's not a singular corridor, then it's not a corridor analysis, it's a sub-area analysis. Do you want to include in here multimodal in terms of looking at multimodal access? Do you want to look at spot locations? Do you want traffic volumes? Do you want speeds? Do you want intersection driveway cuts, traffic control devices, travel time delays, simulation, biped? Freight hasn't been in here either. Parking, because sometimes parking off of a particular facility will involve, particularly if there's a commercial use, will involve some sort of a origin destination, trip generation, trip distribution, network assignment type process. Do you want to look at alternative traffic studies, safety studies, whatever those are? Traffic conflict studies, are there conflict points that you're concerned about? Transportation planning studies, do you want an origin destination survey? Do you want a travel demand forecast modeling? That's expensive. Traffic access and impact studies, this is circling back around to what was mentioned earlier today. Or do you want a transportation demand management approach to the whole thing? Because we have somebody in economic sustainable development who was hired to do transportation demand management, but that's focused entirely on the downtown area. It's not focused anywhere else in the urban area. So with that, I mean, that's my introduction. Then it's up to everybody else on what they want.
Thank you, Patrick. I guess just one comment I might just add to this is I do know that this discussion on this area has gone on, especially for years, since everyone knew that the hospital was going to move into this direction. And why we're just now getting this list of the options that are there and presented, why we wouldn't have been discussing this more in detail at that time instead of waiting till now to say, what kind of studies did you want? I think that's going to be a frustration amongst some members of the board that where was this in October? Where was this a year ago? To where we maybe could have been discussing funding, and we know everything takes time. So yeah, I guess I'm just a little overwhelmed over this list that we just received today. So that's all I have to say. Kate?
Yeah.
I share Lisa's sentiment, and I don't feel qualified to answer kind of the questions that are posed by you in this document. I don't know that many of us really are. I had an initial question just based on the very last thing you said, which was that you have someone in the city who's focused solely on the downtown and not looking at other areas. Why is that? And is that a resource that we could use to look at other areas?
Yeah, the transportation demand management position was created by council. It's a brand new position, paid position, and it was placed under economic development and sustainability department. And what it's supposed to do is look at alternatives to driving. In other words, how can we have more people carpool, vanpool, use the bus, use bicycles, walk, scooters, entire gamut of transportation demand management, because if you've been to the downtown in the last 5 years, it's been a massive development of, I shouldn't say massive, we're not Los Angeles. It's been a significant development in terms of old structures being replaced with new, what I would call a revitalization or redevelopment, however you want to call it, or a new reinvestment. Underutilized areas have been bought up by private investment developers for commercial and residential use. All of this has been in the Plan Commission, and all of this went through the Unified Development Ordinance. There was an extensive debate about the Unified Development Ordinance. Steve Olin can speak to all of that. With the MPO staff, we don't deal with land use. We don't look at permits coming in. We don't do any of that. We're solely focused on federal aid transportation systems, which are prescribed by the Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Administration. So seeing this what I would call vacuum, council, it was recommended to the council, they create a transportation demand management position. Position was created, person started in November, I think it was, of this calendar year. Yeah, I think it was November of 2021. And it's a person who will work to what I would call reduce the use of automobiles. That's the intended term. And then final note too is all of these developments, according to the Unified Development Ordinance, they're not a 1-for-1 parking space automobile per bedroom. Mm-hmm. There are, sometimes it's 50%, 60%, 70%. So when you see 100 bedrooms, you're not going to have 100 parking spaces. You'll have something less than that. And that's all worked out between planning development staff and the developers. And that all goes through Plan Commission. It all goes through council. I mean, they do all of their studies. All of those studies are available online. Anybody wants to look those up, they're more than happy to do that. But I'll stop there because this is outside of my area of expertise. I just wanted to let you know that there's a position out there that works on issues like this.
Well, thank you. Certainly though, obviously I work in the county, so I'm not, I guess my question is, this particular position sounds very promising, sounds very needed. And in order to accomplish some of the things that you mentioned, such as, carpooling, vanpooling, reducing traffic downtown, you certainly would need to be looking outside of downtown to affect change in the downtown area, especially if you were looking at being proactive. And I appreciate that there are studies that the Plan Commission looks at, and that you operate kind of in different spheres, but the Venn diagram there certainly overlaps, and it seems like that's where we need our information, because how people are developing and using and living on the spaces around Bloomington and Monroe County is exactly what's impacting the traffic and the safety of our traffic corridors, and what is needed in terms of infrastructure. So while I can't say I need exactly this particular verbiage type of study, I feel like asking us questions as to what we need to know, or having discussions about what we need to know, what information is it that we are concerned about and want to have, could certainly allow your staff to determine which of these studies or which combination of these data we need. And if I'm wrong about that, please let me know.
No, you're fine. The caveat on all of this is that a perceived problem and an actual traffic engineering problem might be two different spheres of thought.
Mm-hmm.
Because the traffic engineering sphere deals specifically with cold, hard, factual data. And so perceived congestion and what the measured congestion are maybe two different levels, or perceived safety and measured safety in terms of crashes, crash rates, and other things, you know, they may be different also. And then the other fact that I want to make clear here is that you can do a study, but that study is a dynamic model. I mean, that's a static study in a dynamic world. And right now, under the COVID situation where statewide transportation is depressed by 20 to 30%, public transportation is down even more than that. Van pooling and carpooling is a little difficult to promote simply because people don't want to be in the same vehicles with each other. Same with public transportation. So yeah, I just want to make sure that you know what you're asking for. Sure. Because what's being asked for and what you'll get may be two different things or a whole variety of things. You know, I went through every minute of the tape from October, and the term area-wide traffic studies was used. To me, area-wide traffic studies, and to NDOT, area-wide traffic studies means the entire urban area. And then also the term was used for the corridor. Then another term was used for traffic impact, and specific reference was made to a local intersection, which is a minor collector and a local street. I'm sorry, that's different. That's completely different. And then there were questions, apparently not to me, but to others, about traffic impact studies. I've never seen a traffic impact study in my life. And I've taught traffic engineering, transportation engineering, all of that. I don't know what a traffic impact study looks like, other than I went into the old hospital site at 2nd Bloomfield Road and Rogers Street. If you go to that, we have that posted on the city's website. If you go to that traffic impact study, it's 800 and some pages long of diagrams. That's what a traffic impact study looks like. And you need a traffic engineer with a PTOE, Professional Traffic Operations Engineer, PTOE license to really determine or interpret what that says. So yeah, I mean, my caveats here is tell us what you want, because there are various definitions. Number two, be careful what you wish for, because it may tell you an answer that you may not necessarily want.
Well, if I may, and I will stop right after this. It seems as though you know a lot about this. So you're obviously the subject matter expert, along with your staff. And I would hope that we could tell you what we want, and you could distill that into what is available. And I would look to you for that guidance. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes. And we would work. And clearly we would work with the Department of Transportation on that process. Like I said, we had a general discussion with the Department of Transportation earlier this week, saying studies, and the question is what kind of studies, and the answer is we don't know. So therefore, this was developed at 10 o'clock this morning to give the full menu here. Do you want the whole restaurant, or do you want a specific menu? We don't know. And that's our frustration on our part here, because there are a lot of things that have been thrown around in terms of terms. I hope that helps. Does that answer your question?
Yes, I would love it if we could move forward. I feel very frustrated by how long it's taken, and to still be not sure what it is we're even talking about is very disappointing to hear.
Margaret?
Okay, well, I appreciate all of those, that menu of options for analyses, et cetera. But this all originated with a request from members of the community and members from safety boards and members of plan commissions for a traffic impact analysis of the proposed and the under construction hospital at a corridor that was changing location from downtown to out at 10th and the bypass, or State Road 45 and State Road 46. You know, if you Google simply what is a traffic impact analysis, it says it is a study which assesses the adequacy of the existing or future transportation infrastructure to accommodate additional trips generated by a proposed development, redevelopment, or land rezoning. And so with the hospital there, with its changed location, with the frequently expressed concerns of county commissioners and of the emergency services boards, and with the crash rate data that you shared with us earlier, and with all the additional building that's occurred on and has been approved, you know, at Pete Ellis Drive, there are another 233 units that are being built. At Kmart, 340 units being built. At Summer House, there's 130 units that were built in 2016. In 2021, Century Village has approval for another 164 units, and this isn't bedrooms. And there's been a lot of building going on. It's apparent to everyone, except for apparently, you know, the MPO staff, I think. You know, as a member of the Plan Commission for the county, and as president of that Plan Commission, we frequently request impact studies from Highway. And those impact studies come in, but they're based on old data. You know, they're based on old data before all the hyper urbanization has occurred. And a need has been identified from a distinguished member of our community who has expertise in this area. And he has very explicitly stated what is needed. And he has shared it with people of elected and appointed positions who concur that we need to have a complete area-wide traffic study to include as a minimum the following. And now, Patrick, this is not news to you. This has been, I've been a recipient of the specific detailed emails with specific requests over the last several years about these items. And number one, State Road 45, 46 bypass, from State Road 45 to the State Road 46 Discovery Parkway intersection to State Road 46 3rd Street intersection. State Road 46 to 3rd Street, from State Road 46 to 3rd Street intersection to the State Road 46, State Road 446 Night Ridge Road intersection. From the State Road 46 3rd Street, Pete Ellis Drive, from State Road 46 3rd Street, Pete Ellis Drive intersection to State Road 45 10th Street Discovery Parkway intersection. From State Road 46 3rd Street, Smith Road, from the State Road 46 3rd Street, Smith Road intersection to the State Road 45 10th Street, Smith Road intersection. From the State Road 45, 46 bypass, State Road 45, 10th Street, from the State Road 45, State Road 46, 10th Street bypass intersection to the State Road 45, 10th Street, Russell Road intersection. And then there's an additional suggestion that traffic impact study questions should include at a minimum. Does the traffic study address the impact of the new pedestrian bicycle vehicle traffic that will occur, and what impact that will have on ambulance routes for the new hospital? Does the traffic study address the impact of the new pedestrian bicycle vehicular traffic and what it will have on the recently converted 4 to 2 lane roadway from State Road 46 3rd Street to Clariz Boulevard and to the State Road 46 3rd Street, State Road 446 intersection? Does this traffic study address the impact of the new pedestrian bicycle vehicle traffic and what it will have on the project DES number 1800208, which adds turn lanes at the intersection of North Smith Road? Does the traffic study address the impact the new pedestrian bicycle vehicle traffic and what it will have on projects DES numbers 1800199 and 1800086, State Road 46 and Pete Ellis Discovery Parkway intersection improvement? And does the traffic study address the impact the new pedestrian bicycle vehicle traffic will have on the IU City Monroe County School bus routes? So these are not just nebulous thoughts up in the air about which we have no idea. We're concerned about the safety of our community. We're concerned about the transportation system and its adequacy in handling the capacity for the new hospital as it's constructed. We're concerned about emergency traffic access during game days. We're concerned about these things. We've been expressing it for multiple years. And to have presented to me at the end of this meeting a question back to me, what do we want, when we've been telling you for 3 years, is unacceptable. I'm sorry, it's just unacceptable. So I've stipulated what I want. I'd like a bigger area impact study because what we currently have is inadequate for the demand that's on our roadways right now. And I find them lacking when I have projects before me on the County Plan Commission under review. And I hear complaints from residents, and I hear that the traffic study that was completed in 2010 indicates that we can have more building. I just don't understand it. So, I mean, that even though I say I don't understand it, I say something is amiss, and I recognize that it takes this level of confrontation from me to you on this forum to try to get some action done. And I'm pretty disappointed, I have to tell you, to be placed in this embarrassing position, to have to ask this way in this forum. So thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Steve?
Madam Chair, I don't understand how the MPO works because I'm sitting here hearing Ms. Clements over and over again repeating her demands for things. I don't think she understands how it works. There's 13 members, right? 7 members can vote to do something. So it seems like if several members of the MPO want something to be done, they should put together a resolution that gets 7 votes. But that hasn't happened yet. Instead, I keep hearing complaints about how, as though individual members of the MPO can demand that action be taken. I mean, I gather that we name a chair to direct the work of the MPO staff, but what I've heard is the continuous expression of opinions from our esteemed colleagues who represent the county about the east side of Bloomington and the interaction between city and state regulated projects. But I'm like, we have unlimited, is there no limit to these meetings? Do we limit the amount of time that individual members can speak? Do we limit the opportunities to repeat the same issues over and over again? I mean, I understand that Ms. Clements, for example, has very strong opinions about how a study needs to be done, but I, for one, am not willing to relitigate this issue meeting after meeting. If the members who believe that action should be taken want to take action, I think they need to put a resolution on the table and get a majority to vote for it. And, you know, like I've heard the complaint many times about how they believe that traffic and safety are at issue on the east side. But I agree that they're not being very specific. I think that MPO staff have been very explicit about what their limits are, what the options are. And I understand that Ms. Clements has a different definition of, for example, what a traffic study entails based on her work on the Plan Commission. But until we harmonize those definitions, we're going to keep going in circles. Okay. So, but I still think that it's up to the individual members of the MPO to put forward a proposal instead of just sort of making a statement about how, I mean, it's not up to Mr. Martin or Mr. Clements to make proposals. They can help us individual members of the MPO make proposals. But like, if we're going to keep doing this, I'm going to ask, I mean, several members already had to leave because they didn't expect the meeting to go more than 2 hours. How many times are we going to have this issue repeated? We talked about this issue at the top of the meeting and at the middle of the meeting and now at the bottom of the meeting. So I'm a little frustrated here, and I would respectfully ask Ms. Clements, Ms. Githens, to a lesser extent, Ms. Wiltz and yourself. You know, I understand the county has concerns, but I think it's time that you put a resolution on the table for the next meeting that we can vote on. But it has to be explicit. I appreciate Ms. Clements putting in the text. I mean, she read everything she put in the text about the streets she believes should be studied. Okay, but I mean, is there something I'm missing? In other words, can an individual member of the MPO make a request for a traffic study and expect for it to be done by the MPO? That's my question to whoever can answer it.
No. The MPO staff is incapable of doing these studies. And from what I understand, I agree with you. We need an actual resolution with specifics that the staff now has given us guidelines as to the specifics that are necessary, because most of the area being discussed is under INDOT's jurisdiction. And some of it would be coordinated with city and perhaps county, but clearly the MPO staff cannot do the studies. I agree with you. They are capable of helping to fashion a request that may incorporate much of what's been asked for to look at what's going on the east side. But one, I agree, they do not write these resolutions for us. And two, they do not do the study, and it will take an actual coordination, which is part of what MPO is supposed to be about, in order to get the kind of information that they are requesting.
I mean, I would beg to differ. I think that they can write resolutions, but I mean, I think they've also answered the question that might be the subject of resolution here. They don't necessarily know how to define the terms that members are asking them to create a resolution out of. Okay, so you know, I mean, I'm happy to help sit down with other members and try to get more specific definite. It'll be if we don't agree on terms, we need to define the terms. Okay, but what I'm also hearing in a complaint from my colleagues from the county is a frustration with the approval of large units of housing on the east side, which isn't the MPO's jurisdiction either. I mean, the MPO staff certainly doesn't have authority to tell the city what to tell a developer. So, I mean, you know, I'm encouraged. I would like to encourage my MPO colleagues to clarify for me, is there something else that I'm missing here besides the same concerns we all have about safety and traffic, but maybe not necessarily agreement about how we would go about addressing them? That's a rhetorical question. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And I can't speak for all of Monroe County. I won't try and speak for Kate, Penny, or Margaret. I know I've been involved in many thousands probably of emails on this topic over the last few years. I think the frustration level is that it's just been a circle. I think they've tried to look at MPO staff for more guidance on the direction on, okay, where do we go to get this study done? How do we get this done with NDOT? Because they work with other projects and the TIP and the STIP. I believe it's been stated that there was a project in the TIP or the STIP that was eliminated that was in this area years ago. I believe it's part of this goal to not let a project drop again out of that federal programming for safety reasons. So I have seen a lot of the emails. Should it have gone to a resolution by this point? Absolutely. I feel like it should have gone to a resolution before this point. Again, I think the frustration is, I guess, lack of guidance, maybe response that some might be feeling that they're not getting from staff because they're not engineers. They're not. They see a concern, and that's why I see the emails, I see these meetings, and it just keeps, to me, it just seems like we're running and chasing our tails. We've accomplished nothing. I've never seen a project like this go on. I agree, it is an NDOT jurisdiction. We can only make recommendations to NDOT. We can't force them to do anything. But you have a crash report right here in front of you that states that area is an issue. That's what we build our TIP on. I know projects are turned down in a TIP because it didn't fall in the top 50 of a crash location, but this area does. It's in the top 5. It's in the top 3, 2, 1, and we're still discussing it. So I think that for me is that's probably the frustration level, that we just keep sending emails, we keep talking about this, and then we're right back at, what kind of study would you like to have? That should have been discussed years ago. But again, I think it was just people looking for guidance of how do we get this done? And this is just my opinion. I don't know what the next step is. I would say a resolution. I would encourage, if there's a not just county, maybe a couple people from the board representing Monroe County, as we all do, to draw up a resolution for the February meeting, and keep moving forward. And
I would like to convert
and meet with the staff, and I'm not trying to put the staff down. I think everyone's just reached this frustration level and want to move forward. So Margaret, did you have something else?
Yeah, to that end, I failed to, in my comment, turn that into a motion or a request. And if I have to reread my comment, I will. I would like to move that that the items that I suggested be captured as old business at the next meeting, and that we deliberate on this. And I know that NDOT has already been coordinated with, and they're waiting on us. Okay, so it's not a matter of NDOT's lack of capacity or unwillingness. It's us. It's us. I don't want to be a problem when somebody loses their child or their spouse at that intersection. No, this is real. This is as real as it gets. So let's do something about this. And if I have to reread what's been floating around for 3 years and what's about ready to get worse because the hospital just opened, and that 30% discount in the traffic that, that we could model and account for, that the traffic area study be done, given consideration for the housing developments that are occurring, and that we look at things realistically. and that we employ our capacities and that we serve our mission to the community in order to analyze the traffic and solve safety problems. And so do you want me to reread it, or does it just serve for me to say that I would like to turn my comments to a motion that we resolve to do an area traffic study that's updated for the with the different anomalies that have occurred, like the hospital, the reduction in traffic on lanes on 3rd Street, the new housing developments that are adding other stresses on our system. What do you want me to do here? I turn that into a motion. Does anybody else want to second that?
Madam Chair, it's out of order. A motion right now is out of order. A
No, it's
resolution
not.
right now is out of order.
Why?
This is a discussion period, isn't it? Aren't we supposed to put resolutions down in writing with at least 48 hours public notice?
This is under new business. And
What's the point of an agenda if anybody can bring anything up under new business if they want to, anytime they want to? Why do we even adopt an agenda?
I was thinking that and maybe I misunderstood your motion, Margaret. I was thinking that your motion could be a request to work with staff to develop a resolution.
What happens then? It goes to some committee and dies there? I mean, what is this?
A resolution, I believe, would come to our board at the next meeting.
Okay, well, that would work if it comes before our board at the next meeting.
And this is just me as just a suggestion of making a motion to, I'm glad to be involved with the MPO staff to help develop a resolution to have this brought to the February meeting on a resolution to request working with NDOT to develop the appropriate traffic studies that are necessary to address the safety concerns that have been addressed today.
And I would remind the chair and the rest of the policy committee that whatever resolution it is needs to come first to TAC and CAC for them to review before it comes to policy committee. So you would need to do this post haste if you want it addressed at the February meeting.
I agree with that. However it needs to go, I would like to have this at the February meeting and not miss another month.
And I would also like for Ms. Clements to understand that indeed there need to be specifics. And I understand your frustration and that you want it all addressed, but we've been given guidelines as to what kinds of specifics we need. And for us to actually review this and request that NDOT in coordination with city and county address it, there have to be absolute specifics. The other thing that I would remind our representatives from plan commissions is that you can approve developments and they may happen very rapidly. However, all you have to do is to look at our long-range transportation plan and our tip to recognize how long highway programs, particularly when they get federal funding and not local funding, take in order to change what we are experiencing on our roadways. And so yes, they should always have been coordinated, but clearly they have not. And we as an MPO cannot change that. That would be ideal, but we are incapable of doing that.
Thank you, Sarah. Very good points. Steve?
Well, I would simply ask the MPO staff, when resolutions have been brought to the MPO before, what form do they take? Can you send us a blank form that any member could, I mean, if this is anything like the council or the commissioners, somebody puts the resolution into the proper legal form for us to deliberate on. What is that form for us?
We can send that to you. Yes.
Great, great. Well, I would strongly encourage those who wish to sponsor this resolution. Sounds like there's more than one person, present who would be willing to sponsor it, to ensure that it gets authored so that the rest of us can properly take it up. And I want to echo Ms. Ryderband's point that there's very little time to get it together before it can be heard by the TAC and the what's the other one?
Citizens Advisory
And the CAC. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other comments on this topic?
I would like to make one comment. I think that part of my frustration is that some of this has been known since last fall, at least, that we were asking for stuff, and to have waited till earlier this week to discuss this with NDOT and send us stuff at the last minute, I find unacceptable. Sitting on it for months at a time and then expecting us to digest it within 2 hours is not responsive to what was asked.
Thank you, Penny. And if I did miss that, I know in the chat there was 2 questions on when you spoke to NDOT, and I'm guessing you did answer that. Did I miss it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to public comment for items that are not included on this agenda. It's limited to 5 minutes per speaker. And the committee may reduce the time limits if numerous people are wanting to speak. If there's any public comment on items not on this agenda and somebody wants to speak from the public, Mr. Ferris. You're muted.
Okay, hold on while I unmute him, and then I'll start the timer for him.
Thank you, Ryan.
Just need to figure out how to do this. Okay, Mr. Ferris, you may unmute yourself now.
How about now?
Yep.
There you go. Does that work?
Yes.
And then my screen will have the timer in it. It's a little archaic, but here we go.
So my comments will be brief. I appreciate all the dialogue that we heard today. I echo the fact that time has gone by and we really haven't come to any type of resolution. I would only ask that there be an action taken other than the general discussion, which I think I just heard, for the next step. And either that came from Margaret or it came from Lisa or whomever, but there should be an action that comes out of this meeting and it is recorded. That's all I'd like to add. Thank you.
And then I will comment that the meeting is always recorded. Seeing no other hands raised. Communications from committee members on matters that are not included on this agenda. And seeing no hands raised. Upcoming meetings, Citizens Advisory Committee is January 26th, 6:30 p.m. virtual. Technical Advisory Committee meeting is January 26th at 10 a.m. And Policy Committee meeting February 11th at 1:30 p.m. virtual or hybrid at this time. And
I move to adjourn.
I second that. Thank you, everyone.